More rough injury news for the 49ers on this Tuesday off day. Raheem Mostert, initially anticipated to miss only about 8 weeks, is now going to be done for the year. Just a little bit ago, Raheem took to Twitter and he said this: "After consulting with multiple doctors and weighing my options, I will be having season ending surgery to repair my knee. This gives me, without a doubt in my mind, the best possibility at coming back 110%. But the problem for the 49ers, beyond the fact that Raheem Mostert, their most explosive offensive player, won't be available at all in this 2021 season, is that Raheem Mostert is only under contract with the 49ers through this 2021 season. So the question now moves to, has Raheem Mostert played his last game in a San Francisco uniform? It's obviously way too early to answer that question because we don't know what the 49ers running back situation will be until after this 2021 season. I mean, the way things are going right now, with Jeff Wilson standing up from a chair in the locker room and tearing his meniscus, with Raheem Mostert tearing some cartilage or chipping some cartilage in his knee after only 2 carries in the game against Detroit, with Trey Sermon being inactive there for week 1, we just don't know how this is going to move forward. I mean, it's a very unpredictable situation. And in fact, the only thing that we can really predict about the 49ers running back room is that there will be injuries. Kyle Shanahan pointed out on Monday that he hasn't been through a season yet with the 49ers, and he's already been through 4 of these seasons where he hasn't had to start at least 4 different 49ers running backs. It just goes to show you that the way that this is going, with the style of players that the 49ers have in the room, I get that they really emphasize explosiveness to fit into that outside zone, but it seems to be correlated with a higher injury rate. And it goes to show you that depth and stockpiling players is the only way that the 49ers can potentially get through entire seasons. So we'll see what happens with Raheem Mostert. For now, we'll go back to the depth chart because this is all that we can do as we track what the 49ers are doing. And they have made a roster move today, and I'll show you what it is right now. Here's the running back room. Zoom in. I now have Elijah Mitchell on top after his 100-yard performance. Trey Sermon is going to play. You don't have to worry about that. I mean, one of the reasons that he was inactive is because Elijah Mitchell had showed out so well right before the season opener. There could be other stuff at play with the Trey Sermon situation, possibly some kind of disciplinary thing. Haven't been able to confirm that yet, though, so I'm not going to report that. But what I can report is that Trey Sermon will definitely be active, along with Elijah Mitchell and Jermichael Hasty for the 49ers in week 2 against the Eagles. The move that the 49ers have made is to bolster the practice squad. So now they again have 4 capable running backs on the 69-man roster because they have added Kerryon Johnson. Kerryon Johnson, who is he's a former 4th-round pick of the Detroit Lions, and he had a very promising 2018 season, averaging nearly 5.5 yards a carry, catching 32-yard passes. In fact, some of that productivity for the Lions in 2018 for Kerryon Johnson happened against the 49ers in week 2, so Kyle Shanahan got a good look at him. The problem for Johnson, who's an Auburn alumnus, who's explosive, has a well-built 5'11", 210-pound frame. He's a guy who could be physical as well. The problem has been a knee issue. He hurt his knee in 2018. That ended his season short. It compromised his 2019 season. And although Johnson was healthy at the time that the Lions waived him, a lot of that promise that we saw from him as a rookie seemed gone by 2019. The Eagles picked Johnson up. He was part of training camp for them, and they waived him with an injury designation about a month ago. So obviously the 49ers must like something about how Johnson's knee has progressed. That's why they added him to the practice squad, and we'll see if the team can get any type of production that's reminiscent of Johnson's 2018 rookie self moving forward. But if you watch the film for Kerryon Johnson, this is a guy who was able to run to the outside effectively. I think he has a good cut for that outside zone, and I think he's physical enough to run a little bit of inside zone. I mean, he was steamrolling some people in that Detroit Lions film. The question, as always, will be health. But for now, this is a practice squad addition for the 49ers, who now have filled 52 of 53 53-man roster spots. Not officially. We're still waiting on final word for Dre Kirkpatrick, and they filled 16 of 16 practice squad spots as they move forward into this game against Philadelphia. But the question regarding Raheem Mostert moving into the future is an interesting one because we cannot discount how explosive Raheem Mostert was for the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, everybody's going to remember that NFC Championship game against the Green Bay Packers in January 2020. It looked like the Packers defense was in quicksand trying to chase Raheem Mostert. It's looked like that for several defenses since. Just remember, week 1 of the 2020 season had that little angle route coming out of the backfield for Raheem, and Jimmy Garoppolo hits him in stride, 80-yard touchdown. Very next week, Raheem Mostert sprints down the sideline against the New York Jets. That's a 75 or an 80-yard touchdown. Those 2 plays, and it only took those 2 over the first 2 weeks, I believe were the 2 fastest times recorded by an NFL ball carrier throughout the whole league in the entire 2020 season. That's how good and explosive Raheem Mostert is. I think you saw it against the Raiders during the preseason. Everything about how the defense had to play the 49ers changed because of how fast Raheem was able to hit that outside edge. So, yes, this is a really, really tough loss for the 49ers. And yes, if Raheem Mostert is able to get back to 100%, he's obviously a guy that the 49ers would be interested in for the 2021 season. That being said, Raheem's been around the league for a while now. He's not a spring chicken anymore, and this is a lot of injuries. So it's going to be tough for him to sign a exceptionally lucrative deal moving forward without putting together an injury-free campaign. And you could see why Brett Tessler, his agent, wanted to renegotiate his contract last offseason to include a few more guarantees, because with injuries happening the way they are, and with Raheem being as valuable as he was when he was healthy, he wanted to be ensured that he had some kind of, protection in his contract. But there is no more protection beyond this 2021 season because he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. So that impact that the 49ers enjoyed whenever Raheem Mostert was healthy, that defense stretching impact, getting to the edge, opening lanes up, really burning other teams with their speed. The 49ers do hope that they get some of that now from their rookie, Elijah Mitchell. Who agrees with me when they saw Elijah Mitchell run on some of those outside zone plays against the Detroit Lions? He reminded me of Raheem Mostert. That running style, that burst seemed very similar. Elijah Mitchell says that he's running with 4.3 speed right now. That was his time at his pro day. He's put on a little bit of weight, but he says that he's kept the same speed. I tend to believe him. He looked like a 4.3 guy on that touchdown against the Lions. I think it was a 38-yarder to the outside. Jimmy Garoppolo audibled into the play. I mean, it looked like NFL defenders were in quicksand against Elijah Mitchell. And that was the same feeling that I would get from Raheem Mostert when he was healthy. So 49ers are going to rely on Elijah Mitchell to give him that speed punch now. If you want to talk a little bit about Trey Sermon, we're not sure exactly why Trey Sermon was inactive, other than the fact that Kyle Shanahan said that for this specific game plan, Elijah Mitchell and JaMycal Hasty and Raheem Mostert beat him to the punch to be on that 48-man active roster. But I think that the 49ers plan for Trey Sermon remains the same. And I think it's for him to be the tenderizer ahead of a back that is, runs on ice skates, that is able to glide to the outside. And that used to be Raheem Mostert in the first string role for the 49ers. But I still think that is going to go to a different player, and that the formula is going to be similar. Now it's just Elijah Mitchell holding down that role. So against the Eagles, I would expect Trey Sermon to be active. Kyle Shanahan essentially confirmed that on Monday. And I would expect Sermon to be more of your inside zone, more of your bruising type that opens stuff up. And I would expect Elijah Mitchell to be set up to get a lot of yards. This is going to be a tougher test than it was against the Detroit Lions. The Eagles are obviously a much better team, but I still do think the 49ers can replicate a lot of what they had planned to do, thanks to the fact that they picked up Elijah Mitchell this offseason. And I guess when we talk about Raheem Mostert and, the fact that he went from an undrafted guy bouncing around so many teams to a star with the 49ers when he was healthy, I think that sets the table nicely for the Elijah Mitchell story. We might have seen the last of Raheem Mostert in a 49ers uniform, but we certainly haven't seen the last of Elijah Mitchell in a 49ers uniform. And you have to remember that Mitchell, who runs so much like Mostert, at least in the initial action that we've seen, is a 6th-round draft pick out of Louisiana. He played for the Ragin' Cajuns down there in the Bayou. And what stands out to me is that The 49ers, you talk to Adam Peters, you talk to John Lynch. When their spot to draft came along in the 6th round, they had a list of the top outside zone runners still on the board. And even earlier in the draft, when the 49ers were trying to address other needs, Elijah Mitchell was at or near the top of available outside zone runners or guys that could fit perfectly into the 49ers scheme. So I don't think it's a coincidence that Mitchell looks so comfortable in the 49ers scheme, just blasting to the outside there. And I don't think it's a coincidence that he looked reminiscent of Raheem Mostert in that role. And it's definitely not a coincidence because when I did some digging on Elijah Mitchell, and this is something that I should pop open for you all on this screenshot, because his college background in Louisiana is fascinating. Here it is. We're going to pop this one open on the side screen. Elijah Mitchell brings a blue-collar style to the 49ers, jeans and boots. He's a cowboy. Take a look at this. Some of the quotes about him, I think, are awesome. Elijah's definitely not afraid of hard work. He's definitely been on the farm his whole life. He's definitely jeans and boots. He's a cowboy. He's very simple. His older dad is a gentleman, and his dad does not play. His dad raised him to be a man that has to take on responsibilities, and that's carried over to his football work ethic as well. So here you have a small school guy who grew up. I mean, the quote there that I read comes from Jabbar Jalouki. And Jalouki is a running backs coach at Louisiana who helped develop Leonard Fournette at LSU. So you could imagine Elijah Mitchell being a kid growing up in Louisiana who idolized Leonard Fournette. I mean, that was the whole Heisman campaign at LSU thing that we saw. And Jalouki was Fournette's coach. So Elijah Mitchell, despite obviously being smaller than Leonard Fournette, obviously being an explosive 4-3 guy, learned and tried to emulate how Fournette would run, and you try to bulldoze people. So you see a lot of that combination of physicality with the speed. And the 49ers love that combination. And here's what else they love, probably even more as far as a perfect fit for their scheme. The Louisiana Raging Cajuns commissioned an analyst to study the 49ers offense 2 weeks before the 49ers drafted Mitchell. And this is because Louisiana realized how similar their outside zone-based attack was to what the 49ers were running. They were already emulating so much of what Kyle Shanahan loves to run offensively. Here's what Jalouki said. Elijah is going to have an advantage there because he was able to pick up our complicated offense. They're running similar things to what we run. We also identify the Mike linebacker for who he's going to be blocking. The terminology is going to be tomato or tomato, but it's still the same fruit. It's almost a match made in heaven, the way the 49ers run the outside zone. He's a one-cut vertical, north and south runner, and he's physical as hell. So you can see what I just read there encapsulates everything that I've been saying here over the past few minutes. Elijah Mitchell, the 49ers picked him as a tailor-made plug-and-play replacement for Raheem Mostert, and now he's going to be counted on to do just that. The initial returns for Elijah Mitchell are very good. In fact, he became the first running back ever to be drafted lower than the 4th round and to deliver 100 yards rushing or more in a team season opener. And the most recent guy that held that record was Alfred Morris for Washington, had 96 yards in his rookie season opener. Didn't quite crack 100, but the common link here is that Alfred Morris also played under Kyle Shanahan. So the good news for the 49ers is they're able to glean excellent production out of lower round or undrafted running backs. They did it with Raheem Mostert. They're now doing it with Elijah Mitchell. And wouldn't you know it, Elijah Mitchell's the guy that they're going to be counting on to replace Raheem Mostert. And the 49ers will also be counting on Trey Sermon in his NFL debut in week 2 to carry part of the job, because this is a by-committee effort. We don't know what's going to happen with Mostert moving forward. We do know that he'll no longer be under contract with the 49ers after this season. And now that he's out for the season, that pressure relies on the rookies. It's squarely on those rookie shoulders. Trey Sermon, Elijah Mitchell, Niners drafted them. Go get them, kids, because they're going to have to perform for the 49ers this coming Sunday. All right, everybody, take care. Enjoy the rest of this Tuesday day off.